And we are live now. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a round of discussions and pitches on some very interesting topics marketing, talent, remote working solutions during this era of coronavirus. We have three outstanding speakers joining us today. One is Prem K, Chief Marketing Officer of HipBar. We also have joining with us Azan Barodawala, co founder of Lansify, and also Dr. Karuna Batra, coach and founder at Viraj Solutions. So each of them will be sharing with us some of their insights on topics of the day. And in between these speakers, we will also have pitches from about five startups in this space, marketing talent solutions. So first and foremost, we have joining us Mr. Prem K, who's Chief Marketing Officer of HipBar. He's currently managing brand and product marketing at this startup, which is RBI's one of the India's only RBI-approved fintechs. It's a startup in the alcoholic beverages industry, very topical today. And he also co-founded Cloud Cherry, a company which was acquired earlier by Cisco. This was an enterprise-grade consumer experience platform, and it was taken to a global presence with over 100 companies around the world. So, welcome aboard, Prem, and a big welcome aboard also to all the people joining us on Zoom. As you can see, there's a chat window on the right. Please type in your questions on the right, and I'll add them to whatever questions I have. Thanks again to Vinay Dora for setting it up, and also his entire team at Crowd Product. And thanks once again to these three outstanding experts. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this Friday afternoon. So let me begin with Prem. Prem, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your company and then tell us a bit about how the whole marketing context has changed today, why digital is so important, and what content can play in this particular role. Over to
Absolutely.
you, Prem.
Absolutely. Thanks, Madan, and thanks, everyone. Good evening and hi to everyone who's logged in today. It's such a pleasure to be here today. And as Madan was gave a quick brief, I handle marketing and brand at India's first tech company for alcoholic beverages. We're called HipBar. We're also the first and probably the only company that has done legal home delivery of alcohol in Bangalore. We did this between 2017 and 2018. And since then, we have been pushing for this across multiple state governments. It took a pandemic really for state governments to wake up. And, now they're having, multiple rounds of conversations with us and several other players. So, it's been good for us. That's a silver lining, I guess, in all this. Previously I was also with Cloud Cherry, which I co-founded, and I was a chief brand officer there. We were one of the first enterprise grade SaaS platforms in customer experience management, and we were acquired by Cisco. Largely, I've been in advertising and worked on several large global brands in FMCG, automotive, telecom, and so on. So that's a little bit about me, and I think really, your first question, Madan, was really about what are the changes in buyer behavior, and what are the expectations of consumers in the retail space, and how is that changing, right? Really, consumer expectations are evolving all the time. There's never a single period of time that's lasted more than a couple of quarters or so for you to stay relevant. More than 2 quarters, you become irrelevant, and you need to shake it up a little and start with a new messaging and start with something that is more relevant to your consumers, because the market is so dynamic today, and with technology and so many advancements that are coming in, you need to stay on top of that. But in this given time, right, there are going to be massive changes. How, to be honest, I think all of us are looking out for that answer. We're all, biding our time and figuring it out on a day-to-day basis on how this is going to change and what really is going to happen. But some things that are going to be, we can be sure about is that, customer experience as a large thing has been key. But what you offer as a great customer experience and what you want to stand for as a brand, that is going to be turned upside down. As a consumer, I'm no longer going to be seeking luxury. I'm no longer going to be seeking value adds. I'm not going to be seeking extraordinary comforts. I know, and I have to accept that these things are in the past, at least for the near future, at least for another year, or, for a few years. Today going forward, I'm going to be seeking safety. I'm going to be seeking ease. I'm going to be seeking basic comforts. I'm going to be seeking responsiveness. Those are the things that I want to be looking for from my brands, and that's really where brands need to kind of make their shift towards and make that part of their message, right? We've seen a lot of people have started talking about contactless delivery and things like that, because that's what matters today, and that's how you need to be evolving and stay relevant to your consumers in the given times, without obviously shoving it down their throat. And some brands are doing offers around contactless delivery. Opt for contactless delivery and we'll give you one free one free meal, which seems a little extra at this time, but anyway, that is what it is.
You spoke about relevance just now. What about differentiation? Now that everyone is digital, how do you differentiate your content from all the other content that's out there? Everyone is trying to do the same thing. So how do you differentiate from your competitors, your counterparts in this space?
um I think, see, with content itself per se, if you're talking about content marketing itself as a category, or as a marketing channel, right? um it's a sort of seemingly innocuous question, but it has a very complex sort of answer. To some, content marketing might seem king, and to some, content marketing is absolutely useless. And unfortunately, due to the way algorithms work, and due to how platforms today interact with us, social media and social networking platforms interact with us, I might see something, and I see what I'm supposed to see and what I'm supposed to believe in. And over time, I'm filled with tips and tricks around content marketing, around influencer marketing, around account-based marketing. And just because I read a few articles around it, it starts pumping in so much more content, and I start thinking that that's the holy grail. And that's where many companies, and many, so especially smaller companies that work with limited resources and limited budgets, and limited experience also in specialty experience, and really capitalizing on that category, they kind of start losing way and focusing too much on one thing. um, I think the real thing today, and this time is good for many brands to be sitting down, especially if you're in an early stage. It's a great time for you to be sitting down and mapping out what are your perfect marketing channels. What are the things that you want to focus on? If content works for you, good for you. If content doesn't work for you, you don't need to have FOMO because of it. Because everybody is talking about content marketing, you don't need to say, I'm going to do content marketing as well, because it costs. It's not cheap. And there is no dearth of great content that's out there today. There is extraordinary content out there, and in that sea of extraordinary content, how do you become the next Shakespeare of your brand? How do you sort of become relevant? That's hard. It's a really, really hard task. And in all honesty, content marketing is kind of like keto or intermittent fasting, or one of those things. It sounds like it stands alone, but actually it works with a lot of other things. It works with a series of other things operating in the background or alongside it. I mean, you need to be looking at what you're doing as well from another aspect. And if you're, I mean, very, very simply and very broadly put, right, if your end consumer or your potential consumers are not the types who are reading content, you don't even need to bother about content marketing. And that's the real big mistake that that many might potentially fall into, saying that even though they might not be reading it, I need it for so and so reasons. I need it possibly for SEO. I need it possibly for for ASO. Therefore, I need to be developing content. So it's not necessarily the way that you're looking at.
What's your suggestion to founders on how they should be involved with marketing? Startups have very lean teams. Very often they are tech led, and most of them are focused only on the product itself. Maybe some are focused on consumer engagement, etc. But maybe branding, marketing is not as big a focus as it should be. So, what's your observation? What are your tips on how founders should get more active in content based marketing?
No, absolutely. I think marketing as a whole is a little bit of it's a very qualitative thing, and it's very subjective also. Um, Founders typically, they know where their strengths lie, and unless they are a tech founder, um, the first thing that they do is hire a tech head or someone to build their tech out. Unfortunately, with marketing, you know, many founders say that, you know what, I'll do it myself. I'll wing it. I'll figure it out. Let me learn about it. Let me, if I don't know C sharp, I'm not expected to learn C sharp. But if I don't know SEO, I'm expected to learn SEO and do a great job at it. And in doing so, and without resorting to even getting younger people who can do that job for you, what you end up doing is pumping in a lot of money into platforms like this, because at the end of the day, these platforms also cost a lot of money, right? And if, like, let's just say that I wanted to do Facebook advertising, Facebook, for me to navigate my way through and effectively and efficiently use that platform and not spend too much money, is, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, right? But that being said, it is absolutely important for founders to stay on top of what their business stands for, early stage, all the time, forever. Because over time and as your team grows, your messaging starts to change. You'll see a sort of slow evolution of, it's sort of like that, the Chinese whisper, that, a slow evolution where your messages, and each person tells your message in a different way. And so you'll realize 10 people down the line, your message is being told in a completely different way, right? That's what you don't want to run into. You don't want to run into a point where you started with a red PowerPoint presentation and somebody's going out pitching a blue PowerPoint presentation, right? So keeping on top of that, but at the same time micromanaging and saying, you know what, I will learn everything, I will do everything, I will do SEO, I will do ASO, I want to see every single metric on a daily basis, is not going to be effective at all. It's just going to really, it's just going to suck resources, your time and your resources that you can put into actually building the company out on a larger scale, and taking it to the next level. Because these are tactical operational things which best left to people who can do it and hold them accountable for it.
So, speaking of operations, what are some dashboard metrics startups should have when you're doing brand driven content marketing?
Yeah.
What are some indicators? What are some measures for you to know that I'm on the right track? I need to change A, I need to add B, things of that sort.
Honestly, sales. And it all comes down to, and then really content plays, the content based marketing really plays one small, it's like a 5% or 5 to 10% aspect in the entire marketing spectrum, right? And how you're working along with everything else, and the effectiveness of the content, whether it's actually doing something for you, will come down to, when you see people, it depends on what type of content you put out. Also, are you putting educative content? Is that being shared? The basic metrics you can look at for sure, right? Obviously you can look at the basic metrics, which is, are they being shared, are they being liked, are people engaging with it? Those are basic metrics, but in some ways those are also vanity metrics, and it makes the author feel really good. It makes the marketer feel really good, saying that, oh, I got so many people to look at it, right? But at the end of the day, is it reaching the right people? That's the key metric that you'll be looking at. Like, if I wrote an effect, let's say I'm doing enterprise marketing, and if I wrote a piece like a guide for something, for a guide for customer experience in a post-COVID world, even if I send it out by email or by a newsletter to 50 people who are in my core audience, and 40 people have opened it, and 30 people have engaged with it more than 50%, right? There are tools for you to track all of this. That's more than enough. That is more relevant to you than actually looking at, hundreds of people read this and hundreds of people liked it and hundreds of people clicked on it, right? One of the things from a content marketing perspective that was very, very effective for us at CloudCherry was, we had a massive newsletter database, and this was a personalized newsletter that we used to send out on a monthly basis. It was not a marketing newsletter. It didn't have it used to purely talk about the new product, product features that we've added. It used to talk about, we had a few content pieces that was relevant at that time and that was doing really well, that was, important for us. And we used to have a personalized letter that used to go out, right? That was our most effective content marketing channel that we've had, and we've had conversions more than like 10% through that. And I'm talking about sales conversions of more than 10% through that. 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, people referencing back, oh yeah, I always look at your newsletter. Now was the right time for me to sign up for this. Great, I'm glad to have gotten to your product.
Great. Thanks so much, Prem. Thanks for giving us all your hard-earned lessons from your personal journey with your startup, as well as giving us a broader context of the whole issue. I hope you stay online for the next half an hour, 45 minutes, in case we can tap your brains, pick your brains for some more advice and gear. Thanks so much, Prem. And now let's move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Azan Barodawala. Azan is the co-founder of Lancify, which he co-founded along with Gautam Sundaresan. Both of them, interestingly, were students at BITS Dubai, about 4-5 years ago, and that's when they got the idea for this startup. It aims to build a workforce through universalizing student freelancing, a very interesting topic these days. So let's begin with you now, Azan. Azan, tell us a little bit about maybe some anecdotes from your journey and how you stumbled upon this idea of using students as freelancers, as assets. Over to you, Azan.
Oh, thank you so much, Madan. And thanks, Vinay, for bringing all of us together. It's great to learn as a team. Now, going back to our journey, Gautam and I, we were freelancers while we were studying. And that's where we dabbled into different projects. And that's where we realized Lancify plays such an important role in a student's life. And that's what, made us, taught us various traits and tricks of the market. So sooner, fast forward, we wanted to give that learning to a whole new task force. And that's where Lancify was born. It started in Dubai. Now we moved to Bangalore and have been expanding ever since then. So talking about more like why we got into student freelancing, right? And like what are kind of advantages and challenges that we face. So firstly, we need to understand like we all were students, not like sometime in our life, and it's very difficult to especially engage with that target audience because they have the shortest attention span, right? And then so if you're targeting that particular audience, you need to be very careful of all the micro trends going in students' life. And that's why we expertise there. We came in, we were students not long time back. We understand what goes into their lifestyle, what goes into their mindset, and how to hook them up. So that's how we started getting into them. We saw a lot of advantages. We built a student community of over 1,400 students now. And we funneled few traits and the quality that they inherit, such as they have a higher curiosity level, right? They're curious what's happening in the market. They'll go one step extra to prove themselves. They have natural more energy. They have young mindset to cater to a problem. So we take those traits and funnels and then funnel them into a proper process, and that results in great projects. And that's how we started into student freelancing, and we are going to stick to that core of the market.
So what domains, what kind of activities is this best suited for? Are you looking at engineering solutions, design, techie, coding, those kinds of things? How long do these engagements last for, etc.? What's a typical engagement? What do some typical engagements look like?
Sure. So speaking from our past projects, I would say we have a talent pool broadly divided into creative, tech, management, and sales. And till now, we've seen over 75% of the projects coming from creative side, because that's where entire digitalization, especially during this times, we've seen businesses leading towards that time. So again, we are university agnostic. We don't see if you're an engineer, you're capable of only these kind of projects. We have engineers who are amazing graphic designers, right? So typically these three skill sets we have, and talking about the project timeline, on an average it's around 2 weeks, but again it entirely depends on the nature of the project, such as logo design is done in around 2 days. We have digital marketing project that goes on for a couple of months. So on an average, it's 2-week period that freelancer is engaged on a project.
So how are you doing marketing in this case? We just heard Prem give us some very good insights on the importance of marketing. So how do you market yourself to students? How do you market yourself to customers? Who finds whom and how?
Yeah. So at Lanceware, we have two stakeholders, right? As you correctly said, two students. So to students, we have a complete, organic and on-ground strategy. We don't go, we try not to go to management. We engage, we hook them with few events, few trends, few what's the lifestyle. We hook on them. We sell them the gig economy freelance lifestyle. So that's how they come into a funnel. Once they are in the community, we give them a feel of the what's there to be in community. How can they freelance? How can they be more independent? How can they earn for themselves? So that's on the student part. We have a very strong team working on it. On the other part, on the businesses side, we primarily target young businesses, startups, entrepreneurs getting into businesses, where we understand that as a founding team, they don't have expertise in everything that a startup or young business require. We want them to focus on their core expertise. So again, we all know that in order to make a business, there are different pieces. Like to have great content, as Prem said, to have great social media strategy, website, etc. So we bridge these two gaps, and then we get in plug and play student freelancer who completes this pieces, and the core founding team of a startup can focus, building the business. So marketing per se on business side, it's been completely organic, word of mouth, referral programs as of now, and it's been going great.
Can you share some examples, some anecdotes, some case studies, maybe a few testimonials of how a customer engaged with you, got students involved, what they did, and how students feel about this?
Sure. So, like connected over 800 projects now. So we have great success stories. We have great feedback till now. And coming from the one of our stakeholders, right, students part. So students, we've seen that love. As I said, like we have had engineers who freelanced on Lancify as graphic designer, and they're pursuing it as their full-time career now. So Lancify has given a lot of students an opportunity where they can, see where the interest lies, and then take the steering of their career. So those been the feedbacks. Many of our freelancers have sponsored their own trips, right? Which I feel that it's very important for personal growth. Some of the freelancers have bought themselves a higher gadget to get better project results. And most importantly, what the feedback that we've got from students side is, after each and every project, they feel they're valued, and they see themselves that what exact impact they have brought in the company. So that's a very valuable feedback, and that's something they take back with them. And on the other hand, for businesses, what we've seen till now is Lancify talent pool have enabled them to save around 60% of the cost that an average agency will quote them, and with nearly 100% satisfaction rate. So it's a very simple model for client side, where they come in with their challenge, and they get engaged with the freelancers abreast with current technologies, current trends. It comes in as a plug and play expert, comes in, solves it, and then client scales their businesses. So that's the feedback and the journey that's been so far for both the stakeholders.
Thanks. So now the big question in the room for everyone actually is this COVID thingy. How is it affecting your business? Is it a body blow, or is it giving you headwinds, tailwinds? Is it going to be a short-term blip in the horizon? How is it affecting this whole attitude towards student freelancers?
Got it. So talking about Lancify, we've actually seen immense surge in demand, especially from brick and mortar businesses. Everyone's realizing the importance of getting digital, and how important is it to adopt current trends. So we've seen increase our business by 170% till now. And on the other side as well, students are more engaged. They want to freelance because they don't have universities to go to right now. They understand how important is this. So it's been really positive for us, I would say. And yes, what we feel at Lancify is student freelancing is gonna boom. We are very bullish on this industry. Even during the recovery from COVID-19, this is the new normal, right? And there are a few trends going to stay. Businesses will have to adopt to a very fast growing model. They need to, even the traditional businesses, they will have to pivot into what's happening right now. How can they scale at the fastest rate? And for that, we strongly believe that student freelancers will come and sit in that very sweet spot, right? Where it's a very plug and play model, and then it helps business to scale. So we are very bullish on this. And then we are committed at Lancify that we'll be the first runners and get this trend settled in our universities.
Great. Thank you, Azan. I think both you and Prem earlier told us how important it is to, even at a time of crisis, look for opportunity everywhere. And I'm sure that's a principle which Karuna later on will emphasize as well. But I think we have some startup pitches ahead of us now. So over to you, Vinay and team. Let's go through our first batch of startup pitches.
Right.
Do you remember when you walked into that store and none of the staff was wearing a uniform? You mistaked a customer for a salesperson? Do you remember how awkward and frustrating that was for you? That's what not having a brand identity is like. You end up leaving your customers unsure and confused. They don't know where to go or whom to ask, even if you're the perfect fit for their job. But what really does brand building do for you? Take a look at these logos. They've been badly mutilated, but you still recognize them, right? That's what a good brand does. It creates such a strong recall that you can't forget it even if someone else tries to make you. And honestly, how many of us would still flaunt our iPhones and our MacBooks if the Apple logo actually looked like this? What a good brand also does is it becomes synonymous to products over time. For the longest time, I've been using Xerox as a term for photocopy, and only recently did I realize that it was actually a company. Hi, I'm Aishwarya Agrawal, a student of Visual Communication and Strategic Branding at Srishti School of Art, Design and Technology in Bangalore. I've recently completed my second year, and my choice of choosing this field has been a culmination of everything that I've done so far. Being a student of commerce and economics in 11th and 12th gave me the sense to understand businesses, to understand what works for them and what doesn't. And coming into design showed me the creative aspect of the same. And since branding is such a complex and tiered process, I believe it's important to have both aspects of the knowledge. In design school, the most common thing that I've heard is that brands are not built in a day, and branding is a complex process. And that is true. Before you jump in to start visualizing or creating an identity, you need to step back and think that what does your company stand for? What are its core values? And here's an example of the same. This was a project that I did for college where I had to rebrand the brand Parker, which is so well known and so renowned. To do this, I stepped back and looked at their website. I asked people why they bought Parker pens and if people that bought Parker would switch to another company. When I did all of these things, I realized that Parker doesn't actually sell pens, but it sells a status. I mean, who buys a Parker pen for utility, right? You buy a Parker for how it makes you feel or how you want to come off as to others. These are some of the other visual identity projects that I did. The first one is for Neera Vadya Foundation, which is an NGO for youth empowerment, and their aim is to make Bharat achieve the pinnacle of glory. The second one is for Sharon Fuels, which was a petrol distributorship. I've also curated these social media posts for the company Risham, which makes handcrafted jewelry. Social media presence is more important now than ever, as we all know. And even when the situation does get better, we are aware that there is going to be a drastic digital shift. Both my parents are working and they've never been interested to take out time and create a digital presence for themselves. But now even they've been forced to do so. One of the most important things about a social media presence or just brand engagement generally is maintaining a consistency. People like finding patterns and they trust brands that are consistent. The best part about visuals or creating your identity is that you get to decide what you want to put out. If you have a set of very complex ideas which you think people are not going to read, you can easily display them through visuals. Break it down in the way that you want, set the tone that you want, and make people see it in the way that you want them to see it. These were some web illustrations designed for a search engine company. Um, when you see a newsletter in your mailbox, do you spend more than 2 seconds deciding whether or not you want to see it? That's exactly how long you have to convince anyone else to see what you have. These were designed for Risham, which is again a company that designs handcrafted jewelry. Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more pitch. I'll just pull that up.
Hi, I'm Aditya Pati.
Do you remember when you
I'm a graphic and web designer with 4+ years of experience and have been freelancing for quite some time now. Today, I'll take you through a small journey on how design factors and user experience can define a brand. This presentation is composed of my works and how I have approached them. So what is a design journey? It's basically how we display and talk about a product to the target audience in a way that is visually appealing and at the same time allows the audience to relate to the journey and the product. There are some key points here which are trending and can help attract the audience. One of them is modern typography. So typography is basically how we try to convey our message to the audience in the form of larger fonts or a visual contrast on the backgrounds, etc. So the next one is logo journey. A logo totally depicts your brand, and we must have certain elements in our logo which can tell something about our demographic presence and something about our product or total journey itself. Next is website trends. So certain website designs are appropriate for certain businesses only. Not all businesses can adopt all the designs. And next, we are going to talk about solid and scenic vectors. I will be showing some of my works in this slide such that we get more clarity on what it is. So let's talk about typography. Typography is one of the most essential factors when you're trying to convey your message. Let's go through some of these posters. In the first poster, as you can see, our eye tries to move towards the name, Saad Khan, or it moves towards the date or the timing. But we don't try to focus on the small paragraph which is under the name, because because this is how typography works, and we are trying to put forward the correct message in the form of larger fonts. In the second poster, even though we don't really understand what's happening, but according to the current trend which is going on of coronavirus, we can see there is a map of India. We can see there are some numbers which have been mentioned. And the topic, which is wave of isolation and light of unity. This poster talks about why isolation is important and how it has been in contrast with all of us being united at this time. Another poster is not really showing any sort of typography, but because of the brand presence of TEDx RPC, this poster was made around 5 days before the main event date. And this shows a message which is through the horizon. So when we talk about typography, we must remember that the essential information is depicted within the first 5 seconds of looking at the poster. Let's move to logo designs. So apart from typography, the story of your logo, along with its demographic presence, can bring about an amazing first impression. These are some of my works in the past, These are some of my works in the past few months, and I would like to focus on the logo of Blake Wilson and what was the journey behind it. So Blake Wilson is a digital marketing company, and their requirements was that the logo should be vibrant and it must have a palm tree with it. So the first impression was maybe we can put forward all the colors, throw in all the colors, and a palm tree is obviously added along with a sea or a river. But that does not depict a kind of message which a digital marketing firm should. So another idea was, maybe we can use the palm tree as some sort of a broadcasting antenna. But again, it does not meet the requirements of a vibrant logo. This gets us to another logo where the palm tree is inside a bulb, and it's broadcasting the message, and at the same time it's vibrant. But maybe we can modify it a little more. So we just take the initials, go to the same logo, and the BW is added as the bottom side of the lamp of the bulb. So this logo was the finalized one, and there were a few more logos which are on the top, like extreme right side. So as you can see, a logo journey can totally change the way your audience is trying to take the message from you. Now let's move on to the web design aspect. So as you can see, currently it's time to have a one second. Okay, let's talk about web design. As you can see, not all designs are appropriate for a given business. Let's go through the web design of Dhruva, which is an astrophysics community. So to give a space kind of vibe, an appropriate design needs to be chosen. Similarly, for TEDx RVCE, we need something that matches with that vibrant culture. Also, in the right side, we have the website of Domo, which is a sales business. So when we have a contrast in a way that there is a white background, we are trying to deliver the message. And when we have a business which is trying to convey some kind of cultural vibe or some kind of hobbies that you're doing, in that case, we try to use a colorful background in such a way that the audience is attracted towards it. Now let's move on to the usage of scenic vectors. So scenic vectors are basically the illustrations of real life aspects or backgrounds. These are very essential in web designs as illustrations tend to appeal more than real photographs in most of the cases. In the top left corner, you can see most of my artworks which are hand drawn, and I tried to redraw them in Illustrator such that it gives so that these can be adopted in websites or in apps and can give a certain message, because the illustrated drawings are more solid and they are not as drastic as you can see in hand drawn pictures. In the middle, we have some kind of patterns, and they are just random topics taken from daily life. And when you add some kind of pattern-based pictures, it does give a proper appeal. The bottom right corner is just the backyard of my house. It was night time and I couldn't see it properly, so I decided to draw it in Illustrator. So these are some of the stories of scenic vectors. They actually help you a lot when you're doing web designs, and these can be used as backgrounds. These can be used as to give some kind of overlay for your text. The current trend of solid vectors is visible everywhere. The ease of modifying them, showing various actions and being able to tell a story in the form of illustrative manner totally changes the way a brand can convey a message. You can see there are so many solid vectors here, and each of them, I can guarantee that it can give a much more appeal than a real photograph. So next we come to intersecting web design and design. So currently it's time to have a correlation between developing and designing. An idea of how animation works and what kind of designs can be incorporated in technology. So this can give you a much better idea on what kind of designs you should be putting forward such that the developers can incorporate it. So my aim is to bring together these fields and provide a perfect brand image with a fantastic collaboration. So thanks a lot. And if you want to reach me, I have put forward my email ID and Behance and all the social media handles. Thank you.
Over to you, sir, Madan.
Thanks, Vinay. Those are two very good presentations indeed. I think maybe we can talk about the presentations afterwards at the end of the whole session. But we come to now our third and very important speaker. We have joining us Dr. Karuna Batra, who is the coach and founder at Viraj Solutions. She earlier led customer success at, a company called Accelerant as director and COO, where she led the customer success division. And she's going to speak with us today on the topic of remote working tools. As you all know, work from home is only the latest in a big trend towards remote work, location independent work, and so on. Today, many of us, like it or not, are forced to work from home. Some companies have already been doing this for quite some time, so the transition was pretty smooth. But for many people, it was a rude shock. So my first question for Karuna would be, tell us a little bit about what you do at Virat Solutions, and maybe tell us what are some key success factors for effectively working remotely. Over to you, Karuna.
Thank you, Madan. I welcome everybody for joining this session. So yeah, remote work is the norm. It's a new norm as the world is putting it, but I have been working remotely for almost 8 years now. I have architected a completely remote company from scratch, which is now 100 people. Accelerant Technologies Private Limited. It's a web services company, essentially building websites and maintaining websites in Drupal. So the world is calling it a new norm, definitely. But I don't see it as a norm. It's definitely a challenge for organizations if they are planning to completely shift to a remote company. Yes, for some it's fun, for some it's challenging, for some it's definitely a new practice that they are getting into. But talking about the 3 success factors, and talking about the core success factors, my journey with remote work has been very, very long. I have been working on a concept of self-organization for quite some time now. And I borrowed the principles of self-organization and applied it to Accelerant Technologies to build a completely remote architecture, which is completely scalable, efficient, and effective, a solution that can be borrowed and applied to multiple organizations. Viraj Solutions, about the founder, like I'm a founder of Viraj Solutions, and that company is aimed at bringing efficiency and effectiveness to remote organizations. It essentially works with remote organization. It works with your teams and helps you find effective best practices, helps you build solutions, whether it's engagement, whether it's analytics, whether it's customer success, whether it's processes, whether it's ISO certification, HR practices, and so on and so forth. What essentially are the key success factors for efficient remote work, as I would put it, is decentralization. I architected the company on the principles of decentralization. Self-organization by itself, it means that you allow the units to function autonomously and let them have their own minimum viable operational solutions that work for them. And how do you enable decentralization is by ensuring that operations is a glue. What do I mean when I say organizational operations is a glue? So remote organizations essentially have to ensure that organizations is enabled, or it's a catalyst to enabling coherence, work coherence, and ensuring that the company is brought together towards a common strategy. So essentially, where is the focus? The focus is on alignment. It's not like defining what the other functions have to do. It has to be gluing the operations together towards a common objective. And the more and more decentralized your company is, your remote company is, it's more easier to scale. That's one very big success story of Accelerant Technologies, on the principles of which we enable that, right? So I normally state this, that any organization is like a human body where you have multiple organs doing their own functions. And yes, they are glued together through 12 systems, right, which have a common purpose, right? So it's very similar. An organization is also an organically evolving entity, right? So any remote organization has to focus on decentralization. If you are 5 people, 10 people team, that's fine. But then as and when you scale in numbers, it will be very difficult. If you have a highly hierarchically driven organization, it will really become maddening to manage when it comes to leadership. It's an operational overhead. The second thing, second success story, as I would put it, for remote organizations is engagement. When people are working remotely, there's a general tendency, to kind of shift and feel like you're working like a freelancer. So that connect with the organizational ecosystem, that connect of being a part of a system fades away. And definitely you are surrounded by various other environmental factors of family and what is going on around typically nowadays, right? So it's very important that despite having a robust core operations of your organization, you need to have a support structure which is highly enabling. And that enabling support structure has to focus on engagement, on performance, on life coaching, and capability enhancement of people and the organization. So I strongly believe, and something that I'm also writing on, is that your remote culture, what kind of remote culture are you building for your organization? Can you see it as an enabler and a catalyst for your organization, right? So how well you manage your operations, how well you architect your operations, what tools and techniques do you choose, how connected are your tools and techniques also enables efficiency into your organization. So this is what we are trying to give to various organizations by providing consulting through Viraj Solutions. And definitely we are also working with many other organizations which on concepts and models that already enable bits and elements of remote work efficiency, which is holacracy, which is one of the beautiful models for operational effectiveness. And that really works wonders when you're working for a remote company. And then there are various other models, so Spotify is one such beautiful model. Teal organization structures, that's also one of the model from principle. You can borrow principles from there and apply to your organization. So there's no dearth of operational design solutions. The question is which model works best and how do you architect and tailor it for your company based on your size, based on your capability, and based on the business value chains you are into.
So, Karuna, you mentioned something very interesting back there, a remote work culture. Now, I remember a few years back, people used to talk about how some people are much more engaged when they meet actually face to face, but they're not as engaged when things move online, etc. What are some of your findings in terms of how to strengthen such a remote culture where everyone feels engaged in the remote aspect of it?
Yes. So engagement is a term that carries different connotations for different organizations, right? Um, People relate to the word engagement as something that should fetch something in return, right? So obviously, like personally for me, engagement is nothing but making sure that people feel a part of a system. People feel that they have a say in the organic evolution of the system. Engagement to me means that every person in the organization is a part of a collective consciousness and they have a say in building that collective consciousness and defining the meaning of the company. That doesn't mean you deviate away from the strategy. That doesn't mean you change your strategic directions based upon what people are saying. But question is that how well do you make them a part of the system and build the system organically along with the people. So that's what engagement means. And for this to happen operationally, it is very, very important to have tools and techniques to enable people to hear them out, right? So openness was one of our key cultural openness, enthusiasm, kindness was were the three key elements that defined our core organizational DNA. So that was the elements or values that we essentially made sure that they exist as a part of our culture and are measured. And we had tools and techniques such as Office Vibe and 7 Gs. When you enable those tools and techniques into your company, there are many more tools. So we use these tools, and these tools helped us to hear from our people. So there was complete transparency to what you need to say. You can just share your concerns, and it's just broadcasted. And there is relevant calls to action, immediate calls to action by the people. We had life coaches into our organization. We had performance coaches into our organization to work with different kinds of problems that people face when they are into an organization. So yes, engagement definitely is a core, very important element. Culture building is very, very important, and it's very important how you choose your remote cultural values, because that's what defines your organizational DNA, and that DNA has to be present into every cell of your organization. And by cell, I mean every employee of your organization.
So what would some of these values be? Responsiveness, punctuality, those kinds of things?
See, we may pick up any number of words, and one word will lead to the other, or one will lie into the other, or one will influence the other. But for us, what worked was openness. You need to be open to express what you want to express. Kindness. When you are working in a remote culture, there will be occasions when you need a lot of support, be it technical support, whether you have a different kind of emotional support, right? So you should be kind enough. Does your operations provide that ecosystem to help people to have support, right? Or to reach out to people? And what do you do if there is a request, if there is a ticket request for support, right? And the third thing that we have was enthusiasm, which definitely people need to be passionate about what they are doing. So you can't do away with that just because it's a remote company. Your 100% focus cannot be on just people enablement, and at the end of the day you are there to produce results. It's a business, right? So yes, these were the key core enablers, and everything else just fitted into it, right? So so definitely these are the core features. You have to continuously work on communication. When you are hiring, you have to make sure that people are they have good communication skills, right? That's one thing. And then the second core cultural enabler for me personally was that how what kind of induction program are you giving to the people when you are in a remote company, right? You are working with various other people who are geographically dispersed, so you are working with different kinds of culture, people coming from different cultural backgrounds, right? So how will you introduce all those models into your system? So everything has, besides just your KPIs, your OKRs, besides the metrics converting to numbers, the financial numbers, there's a whole support ecosystem which defines the success story of a remote organization. And I strongly believe that has to be architected starting from the culture to the strategy.
Thanks, Karuna. That's very useful. I also found it very impressive when you said that you've been doing remote work for several years now, because in the last few weeks at your story, we've hosted a whole bunch of panels on remote work. And one term has been coming up a lot in the last 2-3 weeks, which is things like Zoom fatigue. A lot of people are saying it's very hard to look at cues, those emotional body language cues in such a small screen among 8 participants at the same time, and a whole bunch of contributing factors to Zoom fatigue. So how would you define this fatigue, and what are some ways to get around this fatigue? Because it's a very serious concern now for employees who are saying, okay, I just want to listen to on audio, I can't take video anymore, things of that sort. What are some of your insights?
Beautiful.
And tips?
Definitely, it's there. I personally felt it when I started remote work, and then obviously I had to look for ways and means to how to get rid of it, right? I strongly believe, now there could be many reasons and there are many solutions. I would not get into what Zoom fatigue is. Yes, we do feel mentally and physically tired when you are hooked onto a computer. It's like you are meditating by looking at somebody's face, where you're not listening to a chant, but when you are actually listening to what the other person is saying, right? So, and you cannot do that meditation for 7 to 8 hours, right? Or if you're having a 5 hours or even 4 hours, that's crazy. You lose all your gray cells. Somewhere one has to strike a balance, right? So definitely it's slightly traumatic. The shift is slightly traumatic for the body and the mind. So there are many solutions to this. The first solution is taking a conscious decision of when you need a synchronous communication and when you need an asynchronous communication. Most of the time, the things that we discuss in Zoom calls, and I'm talking through my personal experience. Okay, let's get into a Zoom call and do it. When actually that was not the need of the hour. There was no such urgency. It could have waited. We could have had an asynchronous communication over there. What does it mean when you say asynchronous? It's like you don't need an immediate reply from the people. You can send over email, or you can leave a message over Slack if you are using Slack, and let people get back when they have time, when they have thought about it. Tell them that when you are expecting an answer, right? So a conscious judgment of when to get into Zoom is very important. The second thing that I strongly mention is that it is not always necessary to have video on when you are into calls, right? You have to understand what is the objective of having video on when you are into calls. And it's not a mandated thing, right? It's not something, right? It's not something like, you know, that it's not something like it's unavoidable, right? It's not kind of written as an obligation that it should not be made as an obligation that just come into a call and you have to be on a video. Why make it a general norm that your video has to be on? It's not necessary. I personally have had a lot of productive meetings where video was not on, right? And there's no, even if it's on, there is no harm in switching it off for some time, and just looking around here and there. That doesn't mean that you are being distracted. You are listening, but you can move around, right? And so that's one thing. Don't make video on as an obligation, right? It should not be a forced thing at all. Third thing that I'd like to mention is never have meetings. If you really need to have a meeting that is very, very long, have a break it out into two, right? Don't have meetings more than 45 minutes or 50 minutes. That's the max, right? Don't go beyond that. Break out. And if you feel you need to get into successive meetings in your calendar, have a 15 to 20-minute gap in every meeting, right? And if clients are coming to you and they suddenly say get into a Zoom call and you are not ready for a FaceTime, say no, right? Or push it out. If it's not possible to push it out, get into a phone call and do it, right? So these are a few things. Don't multitask. I have seen people into Zooms and then they are like typing on Slack and there's a sudden ping coming in, and they're responding to that. There's a mental switch that happens, that's more tiring, right? So make sure all your windows are closed. I personally have psychologically also witnessed this with my teams. They may not be responding to Slack messages and emails, right, when they are talking over Zoom, but then just by closing the windows is itself a mental relief that, yes, I have blocked myself out. It's a mental relief. It's a psychological thing. It's like you are helping your mind to believe that you are only here, right? And it enhances the process. It catalyzes the process, right? So you'll feel less tired eventually because you're not expecting anything coming to you because your windows are closed, right? So these are, I would also suggest remove on-screen stimulus, because when you are talking with multiple people, you generally look beyond in the background, what is there. And some people have a tendency to zoom in and see what books are lying here and there. And so have a plain background. So all these things, they may sound very trivial, but I have generally felt that you generally have simplistic solutions to most complex problems, right? So these are the most simple solutions that really work effectively. So avoid multitasking, remove additional windows, don't make it an obligation, have shorter time meetings, have breaks in the middle. And if things are not working, you are tired, you can always say, have a culture where people have the freedom to say that, okay, I am tired with the Zoom thing, or can we have a phone call, right? So if somebody is saying that, I would be very open and acceptable to that idea, because I would love get out of a Zoom call too, who knows, right? So just be open and flexible to allow all the things. Yeah. So
Thanks, Karuna. That's very useful tips for our audience, I'm sure. My last question for you would be next week, we are, I guess, most cities in India are coming out of lockdown and coming back to sort of a hybrid of office work and remote work. So partly work from office, partly work from home. So what are your tips on when we emerge from lockdown, how do we juggle these two modes of work and still be effective? Do we need to forget the lessons of these current 2 months and completely go back to the old, or what do we take from this work from home experience and how do we blend it into the new blended sort of hybrid normal?
Definitely, from what I hear, Manmohan, yes, majority of the organizations are looking into working part remote and part co-located spaces, working from but then the question is, see, people are just inventing new ways of bringing efficiency and effectiveness to their remote models, right? There are many benefits to remote work, but people do get there are many disadvantages as well. They can be worked upon, definitely, but people still are looking for solutions to how to work, on those solutions along with this, right? So I strongly feel remote work is much more beneficial for the organizations, in the sense, like, you can save on a lot of money, infrastructure costs, and I'm sure that employees are really enjoying all the stories that I'm hearing. Employees are really enjoying that, right? So as far as the hybrid model is concerned, it's not going to make any difference, my personal opinion, because they already have a solution for a fully remote organization, because they are already doing it. So they have done it for 2 months, right? And it's working for their business. So even if some of the people want to work, from a space, from an office space, and which is non-remote, right? Just because it is a need. If it's a need, then also it can happen. That's not an issue. I think the entire success story depends upon how robust and how solid the remote core operational engine is that you have developed in these 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or so on. And going forward, I strongly feel that people who have had an experience of working remotely and it has worked for them, I strongly feel they would never want to go to co-located, offices, because even with the remote solutions, you can have a lot of other supporting engagement solutions where you can make people meet, right? There are various other engagement solutions that can make people meet. It's not like, and people can see each other, right? So hybrid model should not be a challenge if you have a core robust operational engine. That should not be a challenge. Plugging in the people who are that small tiny system which is working outside the remote system should not be a challenge.
Okay, thanks, Karuna. So I guess to sum up, would you say the COVID experience has been indirectly beneficial for your company? It has helped you help other companies cope with the remote model of work much better, etc.
Not COVID has expedited and accelerated the need to go remote, right? So it's come as a as a mandated need, right? Definitely, people are struggling. They have a business to run, so they need solutions on how effective. How can you bring effectiveness and efficiency to remote work specific to their organization? How you can have an operational firm? How you should design Slack? What engagement models should you have? What team structure should you have? What shared information radiators you need to have? What tools? So these kind of questions generally have increased, but remote work was there for quite some time now. And there are various organizations, 1,000 people organizations who have been working remotely and successfully. Promotion of remote work was already there, definitely. Now it's increased, and it's coming more as a solution to a mandated need of the hour.
Thank you so much, Karuna. Very useful insights, and your experience has been terrific for those of us who are getting into this as 100% work mode only in the last couple of months. Thank you so much. Thanks also again to Prem and Azan for setting up this whole context of the discussion before we got into this talk with Karuna. We now have some more pitches. These pitches, by the way, are courtesy Lancify. They're all freelancers, all working remotely, and this is the new norm for most freelancers, how to accelerate their work digitally, how to do marketing digitally, and so on. So again, back to our proud product team for the next round of pitches. Thanks once again to the speakers, and I invite all the people attending this event online to send the questions to Vinay, and we can wrap them up at the end of the session if we have time left after the next three presentations. So over to you guys for the presentations. Thank you.
All right. Hi, guys. I want to do a quick session about why every business needs a website. Even if you aren't relying on an online business, let's say you're a brick and mortar store, sometimes you might think you don't need a business online, but that's not the reality. There's really no downside to having one online, and the upside is you can just increase your business, sometimes even double it. So also the current pandemic scenario is forcing all the businesses to migrate online, and there's just a lot of burst in the customer engagement online. Let's begin. The first slide is you want to get online. I mean, you're not going to get a slice of the online pie if your business is not online. And there are a lot of ways to get online nowadays, several ways. But the core of your business should always have a website. But you can have online other properties. And let's say you have online, let's say you acquired customers, you acquired your audience you're following on Facebook and platforms like that. What is going to happen is they have a lot of restrictions. You got to play with their rules and stuff. So the best example in this scenario is when, let's say you have a page with thousands of likes, and whenever you roll out a post, it's like free marketing for like thousands of people. But over time, customers have complained about it, and and Facebook has reduced the reach. Now you can only reach up to 5 to 10% of the actual audience that like your page. And getting a website will keep you under full control. You'll have your own voice, your own style on the engagement side. And there are a lot of limitations. This is a lot of gray area. If you see social media, there's a lot of stuff here. There is a lot of products, a lot of services. It's not just you trying to push out your product. It's not very niche specific. So there's a lot of noise there. And also there's a website for every need. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, so there's a website for every need. Anyone, any need can have a website, from portfolio owners, from business owners, from financial migrants and everything. There is website for everyone. There's traditional programming. There is content management systems. If you're really novice, you haven't got the skills, you can start off on WordPress. And even there are a lot of shopping plugins to add your cart to the store and payment gateway methods. So it's really easy market out there for customers. And other important aspect is you have information 24/7. A lot of people might disagree, but if you have a store run or if you get calls on site, you're not going to be open 24/7. But with a website, sometimes customer might want to engage with you in middle of the night at his time zone and not at your time zone. So with a website, you can put as much information you want out there for the customer to read through and research about your product, about your service. And there's also a branding advantage. Lots of small businesses neglect this, but in a small area, let's just say a city or a country, the more your business name is heard, the more people are talking about it. People are hearing from from word of mouth and migrating over your website and getting information out. There's a lot of branding advantages. And people are obviously going to trust a website over any other third-party stores. Same thing here happens when businesses list only on Google Maps and stuff. It's great. You can get reviewed. People can ask your questions, and You can also drive people to business and have a call to action button. But what they neglect is over time, there are a lot of reviews, and most of the reviews are going to be from people who are extremely disappointed. And over time, this negative reviews pile up. And if you have a negative review on Google Maps or Google listing, business listing, always a website, you can always highlight your testimonials, your product, how good it is, how beneficial it is. And the more the more human connection you make with the product and the testimonial, the more people would want to talk about your product and drive up to your product. And we also have organic traffic. Organic traffic is great. It can multiply your business double, triple sometimes, but it doesn't happen overnight. The reality is it takes a time. You have to be really consistent on the content you put out. You have to be really focused, and you have to keep updating your websites from time to time. Only then this is going to happen. But if you do that in the right way, you put in hard work, Google's going to repay you, and you're going to have a lot of organic reach, which is always very good. But if you're starting out, and let's say, obviously, it's not going to happen really soon, you can just bump in your credit card details and launch a paid campaign from multiple platforms and drive people onto your website. And that's how you get a lot of traffic inorganically. But if you believe your product is really great, my opportunity is good, my product or service is really good, and this is a chance for you to test it also. It's like a test market. You throw in some ad revenue and push some customers. If they like it, the market will speak back to you. So that's a great chance to test your product out there. And also in the pandemic effects right now, there is a lot of spike in entertainment, healthcare, online shopping, and video conferencing apps, just how we are using right now. And if you are marketing in such platforms, or if you are in such domain, it is a really great time. Let's online shopping, there are thousands of products, but people are preferring to buy it from online. So this is a great chance. If you are a manufacturer, if you have a product that you sell to your distributors locally, this is the time you can come online. And here, climbing on top, this is like the simplest overview on how you can get started. You can, after you get a website done, you can acquire your audience through organic reach and through display ads and all kinds of ads. You can push people into the traffic into the website. And here's where you want them to create an action, like looking at your website, the design, the writing styles, the call to action buttons, forms, and everything. You want to convey your story, and also want them to create an action, maybe give you a lead, maybe purchase something. And as a result, you can always show your clients that these are the clients I bought, this is the cash inflow, and you're improving your brand image also as you grow. And yeah, I think that's about it for my slide. I will be happy spending my time on your project. I work remotely, but you can, if you believe your product is really great, you can get in touch with me. Yeah, that's about it, folks. Thanks for joining in.
Hi, we have Nikhil next, pulling it up.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nikhil Balal, and I'm here to inform you about what I do as a freelance content writer. So why getting the right content is so important is that you see, in a day and age where competition is ruthless and only growing rapidly, specially designed curated content is tailored for each individual company, which aids in not only its brand identification, but also properly and effectively conveys to the public what the firm actually does. Here's my story. So I'm a 21-year-old HR understudy who has almost completed his bachelor's degree in business administration from Amity University. I'm aspirationally driven, enthusiastic, and hungry for knowledge, an evident people's person that works and connects well in social, virtual, and organizational environments. I'm also an avid blogger since I've always been extremely passionate about my writing. So what is this whole content writing thing? So basically, it's planning, writing, and editing information that would be broadcast with the intent of either traditional or digital marketing. A few examples of what content that can be curated for a specific purpose are blog posts, articles, scripts, video descriptions, editorials, newspapers, etc. Now, a beautifully designed website is nothing without the appropriate data, and a website really feels incomplete. So appropriate data and content is actually curated such that Keynote speeches will also be unstructured and less effective without a script. A script is what drives the main focus of a website or a video being shot, or an editorial with mere pictures and no words pales in comparison to a few well-structured sentences and on a reduced amount of visual cues. So impact is generated, attention is retained with genuine interest. They are all peaked due to the existence of content that is in the right place with the right words. All right, so how is it important? High quality content is always more impactful. A cohesive workflow of information improves user experience. Consistency in brand messaging is imperative to maintain a fruitful relationship with a customer or client. This is the most effective means of keeping an existing audience engaged. It also attracts a huge potential audience, drawing their attention and retaining the same. This also aids in the development of a target audience to specify and easily identify unique market niches. Target audiences can also be widened or broadened with the help of curated content broadbanding. Impactful content helps in the development of developing a brand identity. People associate the content you create and put out there with the identity of what the brand is, your vision, your mission. And last but not least, first impressions may very well be your last impressions. Therefore, we need to make them fresh and memorable. Coming to the impact of COVID-19. So the brilliant part about content writing is the flexibility of the writer's location. So remote content writing isn't hindered much by the onset of the current corona pandemic, but is actually taken a positive turn for freelance content writers. In fact, the value proposition offered by a highly talented writer may even rival that of an experienced, albeit seasoned writer, creating stiff competition. That's about it from me. Thank you so much for listening in. It would be my pleasure to lend you my services. We can connect on the email given below, as well as LinkedIn, and please do check out my blog. Thank you so much for your time.
And we have Sasmit Chetri as well here, who would like to present his pitch. Sasmit, you ready?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Hey guys, my name is Sasmit Chetri and I'm a freelance videographer and video editor. I am 19 years old and I'm based out of Bangalore. Now, why video content, right? Well, in today's world, visual content has become an extremely efficient way to show your message to your target audience. The reach and engagement that you can get through this medium is insane and it's only growing every single day. Video content in specific is something that is doing really well across platforms and is a sure shot way to gain the attention of your viewers and your target audience. Over the years, I've followed various content creators across platforms. They have influenced the way I shoot and edit my videos a lot, and I've learned so much from them. I am a firm believer of yes theory and seek discomfort ideology. I genuinely believe that everything we seek lies on the other side of fear. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave we fear holds the treasure we seek. Everything great lies on the edge of our comfort zones, and only when we push ourselves to that point can we truly achieve what we dream of. And it's something that I have believed in a lot throughout the past year and has helped me learn so much. I mean, it's what I'm doing right now. I have never made a video like this before, but the moment Lansfy asked me to, I was like, why not? And now I'll just show you some of the videos that I've made before so you can see what I've done and what I am capable of. that's me. As you can see, I've done a lot of things. I've worked for a lot of brands. I've shot videos for them, made after movies for them, edited videos which other people.
Shashmat, you want to add more to your pitch?
Are we done with the pitches now? Okay, I guess so. So maybe I should ask our speakers for a quick round of comments on these startup pitches. I always love seeing this time even a teenage entrepreneurs talking about their work. Very impressive. So I guess Azan, you want to start? I think some of them came through your network, right? So any comments on how you picked them, etc.?
Yeah, so all of them is from our talent pool, and as you said, right, as you've seen, like great talent, great potential. Now we need to funnel that to businesses, right? There's so many businesses out there. They can use this talent, they can use this skill set of student freelancers, and the work speaks for itself. We are really proud of them, and all the businesses from startups to brick and mortar businesses can engage with them. And anyone in the audience who would like to, engage, feel free to reach out to Lancify. We're happy to give you access to highly skilled freelancers.
Prem, any quick comments? Impressed?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great seeing it, and it's especially that it's such a young age, and it's great that there's a platform like this. So good luck to Azan, and I really hope that this platform grows, and I hope that more people become part of this, and it's also it's nice to see that it's a local platform, right? And I think that's a good thing to see, and good luck to everyone, and hope this grows, and hope to see more such people finding success out of this.
Karuna, any comments?
Yeah, I loved all the presentations and the uniqueness of each one of them, and how each one of them is working towards their passions and trying to specialize in their domains. Definitely, they need to get into the market and apply their talents and kind of help businesses achieve what they want to achieve. So I wish them all the best for whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I would echo that. All the best. And Azan, good job, because these days students are a very worried lot. Those who are graduating now are extremely concerned about. They're seeing all these dire predictions of economy shrinking, job loss, layoffs, no new jobs being put on the board, etc. So it's very good that you're giving them a platform to come together and showcase their work and bring them to forums like this. And Vinay, great job in bringing this very assorted lineup of speakers together and the startups. We've got just a few minutes left. Talk about some of your next steps, and I guess you read an article about this whole event, and we'll be happy to publish it on your story and so on. But over to you. Thanks for everything. Mute. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's good.
Compelling freelance presenters. Thank Azan, Gautam, and the Lancify platform for bringing them together. One thing about Lancify and Azan and the team is they make things happen. So we always collaborate with them when it comes to talent and colleges. And also those who have apprehensions of having people in-house and freelancers, they can be rest assured that these freelancers are totally committed. Also, a lot of learnings. I would really like to thank Prem, and one of my takeaways from his sharing was, content marketing is like intermittent fasting or keto. It works with a series of other things. So that's there. And then Karuna spoke about, the remote company culture, how making people part of the system and of the collective conscious really makes sense. And Madan, thank you so much. And you mentioned Zoom fatigue, right? That's something that we also had in mind, and that's why as an interactive virtual events platform that works with solutions and tools that people already use, I also want to add with formats that people love. So I'm going to listen to this whole session in a podcast format or listen to it while having my dinner, So I think there are a lot of learnings. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will keep you all posted through LinkedIn and the Crowd Product platform on other upcoming events, not just ours, even partner events. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Vinay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And thank you, Madan Mohan. Yeah, it was great having you.
Thanks, Karuna. Thanks, Prem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Azan. I'll be in touch with you all again individually also for follow-up articles and so on. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend. Whatever weekend means these days, have a good weekend. Yeah.
Bye-bye.